Let me share this really helpful perspective that the Holy Spirit gave me about wifehood. When you are a wife, you are the chief of staff of your home. Think of your husband like the president of your home, and you are the chief of staff. For whatever reason, the Lord knows that as a woman who is both a wife and a working woman and a mother, He knows that there's certain language that needed to be upgraded in my mind. Something about being the head, it just didn't translate to anything practical to me. But the Lord used the language of chief of staff, and me being a professional woman, I was like, oh, I completely understand what you mean. When you are the chief of staff, you are the head of logistics in your home. And I was watching a show the other day, and there was a president, and there was a chief of staff, and I was really able to study the dynamics of the two. The chief of staff usually is a person who is really good at logistics. They are very savvy at organizing, preparing, planning ahead, forecasting, seeing what's to come, and being able to do the inventory, what's missing, what's needed. And sometimes, as a wife, if you think of like, oh, I'm a helpmate, it can feel so bothersome. Like, oh my goodness, there's so much to do. But if you train your minds and start thinking of yourself as the chief of staff, you are the one who is responsible for all of the logistics. Now, if you know, a chief of staff has great staff. They have people who are working for them. The chief of staff is not a slave. The chief of staff is someone who uses their wisdom and their energy strategically. Okay. The chief of staff knows that sometimes they have to hire out for stuff that they don't have an expertise in. Right. Let's say your child is struggling in math, but math was not your forte. You're going to outsource that to somebody for whom that is their expertise and they have an ease. Right. If you are somebody who, you are struggling with laundry, there are laundry services that can help you. If you're someone who's struggling with cooking, there are services to help you. When we get bogged down as wives, it's because we are not owning that role of chief of staff. It's because we are not allowing ourselves to outsource the things that are not our areas of expertise. We think we have to do everything and be responsible for everything. There's so many practical tools that you can use. And so I want you to start putting on that hat of chief of staff of your home. And it helps you to also not feel resentful towards your husband because that's not his job. He is not chief of staff. That is not where his strengths lie. And the Lord was showing me that the chief of staff cannot be the president. The president cannot be the chief of staff. Most of the time, you don't want the president to be in the weeds of all the stuff. The president is the front-facing, decision-making type of person. Yes, as you can see in all dynamics, the president relies heavily on his chief of staff for counsel. If you are a wise wife, you're getting your wisdom from the Lord. You're getting your insights from the Lord. If you're a wife, you know how and when to bring things to your husband. The chief of staff is going to read the room and be like, is this a great time to bring this thing up? No, I'm going to wait. There's a timing there. You're not, being a servant who is being looked down upon. You are a valued partner. You are a valued helpmate. Okay. And so at no point do I expect the chief of staff to go now in front of everyone and start making all decisions and doing all these things. Boom, boom, boom. When I first became a wife, I was used to being the president of my own life. And I actually at some point was like, tired of making all of these decisions. I don't mind letting somebody else make these decisions. And so for a husband, he is designed to do that. He is designed to be the president of a family. Whereas in my own life, I can be the president of my personal life, of my career, things like that. I don't need to now also be the president of our family. And I want you to see it that way. This is the one gift from the Lord that is allowing you to take a back seat for a second. You don't have to be the one who falls on the sword. Many times, if you think about the president, right? There are many things that will get thrown at the president, many spiritual attacks, many kind of aggressive things that hit the president first because he's in the front. The same thing is happening for your husband. You should not covet his position as leader, as head of your home, because it is a heavy price to pay. As the chief of staff, you have to decide and almost filter what comes to him. There are smaller decisions. There are more immediate things that will probably hit your desk first. So as a chief of staff, you take care of those things. Okay. Maybe you're the one who is you're sifting through the mail and things are coming and you're like, okay, this is important, this is for here, this is for here. That doesn't mean that you do everything. No, the chief of staff has a very robust role, but they don't do everything. They're able to triage what goes to whom, when does it go. And so for me, and maybe it's because I have a coaching project management kind of background, chief of staff really made sense to me. Rather than being overwhelmed, I'm proud that the Lord is seeing my strengths and is allowing me to use them for my family in this way, not to lord over my husband, but to support him as a chief of staff. Because if we're honest, many times there are things that husbands are great at, but there's some logistics kind of processes that escape them, that it's not their forte, it's not part of their wiring. And that is okay because that's why we're here. And you might be a woman who is like, I am barely holding it together. Remember what I said earlier? We need to stop outsourcing. We need to start partnering with people. I have to be honest about this. The other day, I was coming up against a little bit of something I couldn't wrap my head around. And I was like, no, I really need advice. Yo, I have to be honest. Why did I ask Chat GPT? I was like, man, I need advice from an older Christian woman. And then I stopped myself like, no, I know actual older Christian wives that I can ask. How did you go through this thing? How did you do that? How did you experience this? And I want to tell you, you do not have to figure out everything by yourself. Ask the Holy Spirit to give you the perspective that you need. For me, the perspective that was helpful is to hear that wives are the chief of staff of their household, that the husband is the president, and it is your mission to support the president in carrying out the thing that God called your family to do. It's all intertwined. Everyone has their hand on the plow. That was the perspective that the Lord knew that I needed. What is it that you need to hear from the Lord? Ask him first. And then ask real wives around you for practical advice. How did they get through certain seasons, whether that was early in their marriage, having children, going through career, going through loss, whatever it is. Ask the people around you, because most of the time, really happy, good wives are not talking about their relationships publicly very often. You have to sit down with them and hear these stories of things that they went through, because a lot of the time, those triumphs and those challenges were private, protected by the Lord. And it comes with community that you're able to hear those lessons teased out. So I just want to encourage you today. You are empowered. You are a chief of staff of your household. Your husband is your president. And submission just sounds so terrible. But if you think about all of the places where you submit in your regular life, submitting in marriage should not be as looked down upon as it is. And I think even the Lord gave me that analogy to esteem wifehood, because sometimes it can feel like a thankless job when you think about all the hours and all the things that you put in. You are a chief of staff of an entire household. You're planning trips, you're planning birthday parties, you're doing logistics day in and day out. You are a person who the Lord is using your wiring to bless your family and to bless the people around you. So don't look down upon it. Don't let the enemy tell you you're just a housewife. You're just a stay-at-home mom. No, you are a chief of staff, and you are supporting an entire operation with the Lord helping you. Y'all take